If you've sent out 50, maybe 100 applications this month and heard nothing but silence, I want you to stop for a second. I want you to take a breath, because the problem isn't your resume, and it's definitely not your talent. I've been in this industry for 15 years. I've seen the booms, I've seen the crashes, and I've seen thousands of talented people get stuck in the exact same black hole you're in right now. You're doing everything the experts told you to do. You've optimized your LinkedIn, you've used the right keywords, you've even used AI to polish your bullet points, and yet you're sitting there staring at an empty inbox, wondering if you've suddenly become invisible. Here's the reality that nobody is telling you. The digital front door is locked. In 2025, about 83% of resumes are filtered out by a machine before a human ever sees them. 83%. Think about that. Most of the effort you're putting in isn't even reaching a person. It's reaching an algorithm that has been trained to find reasons to say no, and it's showing up in the data. Just a year or two ago, the average job search took about 57 days. Today, it's up to 83 days. Nearly 3 months of silence, rejection, and uncertainty. If you feel like you're shouting into a void, it's because you are. You're being filtered out by a machine that no longer values digital volume. Let that number sit for a second. I know it's stressful, I know it feels like the game is rigged, but there's a pattern I keep seeing with the people who are actually breaking through. They aren't trying to pick the lock on that digital front door anymore. They found a different way in. So if the digital front door is locked, where are the people actually getting those $300 offers hiding? Let me walk you through what's actually happening. Let's talk about something most people are afraid to admit. We were all told that remote work was the ultimate win. We were told we could work from a beach in Bali or a cabin in the woods and the work would speak for itself. But there is a hidden cost to that freedom. I call it the distance tax. When I first saw this recent market data, it honestly changed how I think about the whole thing. Did you know there's now a 23% global salary gap between remote workers and those in the office? 23%. That's not just a rounding error. That is a massive premium that companies are quietly placing on physical presence, and it goes deeper than just the paycheck. If you're working remotely, the probability of you getting a promotion is 31% lower than your colleagues who are showing up in person. Why? Because of something called proximity bias. It's not necessarily that your boss is a bad person. It's just human nature. There was a study where 42% of managers admitted they occasionally forget about their remote workers when handing out the best assignments. The high-stakes projects, the ones that lead to the big bonuses. When you're just a tile on a Zoom screen, you aren't a person, you're a deliverable. And deliverables are easy to commoditize. Deliverables are easy to replace. Here's where it gets really interesting. That freedom to work from anywhere. It's starting to look a lot like a permanent ceiling on your career. You're trading your long-term wealth for short-term comfort. And look, I get it. I love not having a commute as much as anyone. But we have to be honest about the trade we're making. Now, this is the part that changes everything. While remote roles are being devalued and turned into gig tasks, a new class of professional is seeing their pay skyrocket. They aren't just going back to the office because a CEO told them to. They're doing it strategically. What do they know that you don't? I want to introduce you to a concept I'm seeing work for the highest earners in my network. I call it the presence architect. These aren't people who are just sitting in a cubicle waiting for 5 o'clock. These are people who have realized that in a world of digital noise, showing up in person is the ultimate high-signal move. It's what I call physical arbitrage. Think about this. I've seen enterprise account executives who recently stopped trying to close deals over Zoom. They pivoted back to on-site, face-to-face strategic presence. Their OTE, their on-target earnings, over $350,000. Why? Because when you are physically in the room, the trust is higher, the stakes are higher. You aren't just another vendor, you're a partner. We're seeing the same thing with fractional CXOs. The ones who stay behind the screen are struggling to keep their rates up. But the ones who show up for localized, high-touch turnarounds, they've seen a 40% increase in their billable rates. It's a simple supply and demand issue. Right now, everyone wants to be remote. The supply of digital labor is infinite, but the supply of high-level, accountable, physical presence, that's becoming incredibly rare. And because it's rare, it commands a premium. Tech managers are starting to say this out loud now. 78% of them admit they offer 20% higher starting salaries for roles that are in-office or hybrid. They aren't paying for your coding skills or your spreadsheet skills. They're paying for the trust architecture that only happens when people are in the same room. These high earners aren't just working. They are exploiting a massive gap created by the very technology that was supposed to make office life obsolete. They realize that when everyone else goes digital, the real value moves back to the physical. There's another reason why this is happening right now, and it's the elephant in the room: AI. When an AI can write your code, design your slide deck, and even pass your initial technical interview, your digital output loses its value. If I can get a machine to do 80% of what you do for a fraction of the cost, why would I pay you a premium salary to stay at home? This is the part most people have completely backwards. They think they need to get better at using AI to stay relevant. But 75% of your competition is already using AI to apply for jobs. And recruiters, they're catching on. 25% of them are now flat out rejecting resumes that look AI generated. In a world where everything digital can be faked, your physical presence becomes the only proof of life a high-stakes employer can trust. It's the only unhackable signal of accountability and skin in the game. Think about it from the recruiter's perspective. They're being flooded with thousands of perfect digital candidates. They can't tell who's real and who's just a prompt engineer. But when you walk into an office, when you look them in the eye, when you engage in a real-time, unscripted conversation, all that doubt disappears. 60% of hiring managers claim they can spot an AI-generated candidate, but when we test them, they usually fail. So what do? They fall back on what they know. They rely on in-person presence as the final verification. The era of value production, just making things, is being automated. The era of trust architecture, building the relationships that make those things matter, is just beginning. And you can't build trust architecture through a fiber optic cable. So how do you actually use this? How do you stop being a digital commodity and start being a presence architect? It's not about working harder, it's about working closer. Here's your 3-step blueprint to reclaim your market value. First, you need to shift your focus from digital output to physical accountability. On your resume, in your interviews, stop talking about what you delivered and start talking about where you were accountable. Talk about the high-stakes moments where you were in the room making the decisions. Use language that emphasizes your role in the trust architecture of your previous companies. Second, look for the presence premium. Stop applying for fully remote roles where you're competing with the entire world. Look for the roles that are hybrid or in-office in high-value hubs. Remember that 20% higher starting offer, that's your target. You're looking for employers who are desperate for someone they can actually see and trust. And third, rebrand yourself. If you're a consultant, stop selling hours and start selling presence. Offer to be on site for the critical phases. If you're an employee, make it clear that you value the high-signal environment of working together. This isn't about giving up your life to a corporation. It's about recognizing where the money is moving. People who prioritize presence see a 31% faster promotion velocity. They aren't the ones getting forgotten for assignments. They're the ones in the room when the big decisions and the big checks are being made. It's time to stop perfecting your digital mask. It's time to start showing your physical skin in the game. The 300 Kelo premium is waiting for the people who are brave enough to step out from behind the screen and show up. You've got this. I've seen it work, and I know it can work for you. Let's get to work.